Welcome to another little tale, hopefully you may well enjoy it. The fever came on like a slow tide. At first, Captain Elias Harrow thought it was nothing more than exhaustion. He had crossed deserts mapped only by rumor, sailed seas whose currents were recorded nowhere but in sailors' nightmares, and walked alone through jungles so dense the sun arrived only as green light. A fever was nothing, a passing inconvenience. But this one did not pass. It burned without heat, gnawed without pain, and hollowed him out from the inside. By the 7th day he lay beneath the collapsed canvas of his expedition tent, somewhere in a mountain valley that had never appeared on any chart. His maps were soaked with melted frost. His compass spun without conviction. That was when the visitor arrived. Elias knew he was dreaming at first. The valley had changed. The rocks had folded themselves into a circle like an amphitheater, and the sky had sunk lower, dim and purple like the inside of a bruise. Someone sat across from him. The figure looked like an old man who had forgotten the shape of being human. Too tall while seated. Too still. His beard pooled on the ground like drifting snow. His eyes were not bright or terrible, they were simply very, very tired. "Good," the old man said softly. "You can see me." Elias tried to sit up. His body in the real world refused, but here in the fever he managed it. "Who are you?" Elias asked. The old man rubbed his temples with long fingers that seemed slightly translucent, like smoke pretending to be bone. "I am," he said, pausing as if the word itself were exhausting, "what remains of a god." He glanced around the valley with visible dissatisfaction. Or perhaps the custodian of one. Elias coughed. "You look terrible for a god." The old man nodded gravely. "Correct." For a while neither of them spoke. The sky pulsed slowly above them like a sleeping lung. Finally the god sighed. "You are dying, you know. I suspected." "Your illness has no name yet," the god said. "It will later. Mortals enjoy naming things after they have killed enough people." Elias looked down at his hands. They were steady here. "Is this the part where you offer to save me?" The god leaned forward slightly. "Better," he said. "I offer you my job." Elias blinked. "Your job?" "Yes." The god gestured vaguely at everything. "This." Elias waited for elaboration. None came. After a moment he said, "You want to trade places?" "Yes." The god looked relieved that Elias understood so quickly. "It is a very simple arrangement. Any mortal who encounters me during the proper threshold state, fever, death, trance, certain mushrooms, may attempt the test. If they pass, they may assume my role. If they desire the exchange willingly, the test may even be waived. And you become me." For a while. Elias studied him. "You're trying to escape." Desperately. The honesty was unsettling. "What's the catch?" Elias asked. The god leaned back and closed his eyes as if preparing for a lecture he had given far too many times. "There is no catch," he said. "There is only duration." "How long?" The god opened one eye. "Until the next mortal agrees to take the position." Elias stared. "That could be thousands of years." The god's shoulders lifted slightly. "Yes. That's the catch." "No," said the god patiently. "That is the job description." Elias laughed, then coughed again. "You want a dying man to become an immortal caretaker of reality." "Essentially." "What exactly does the job involve?" The god pointed upward. The sky shifted. Elias suddenly saw things layered behind the world. Currents moving through gravity. Threads tying storms to oceans. Faint glowing networks of decisions branching through human history. It was like looking at the machinery behind existence. "It involves maintenance," the god said. "That looks complicated." "It is," the god agreed. Elias rubbed his face. "And if I refuse?" "Then you die of your illness within the hour." "Wonderful." They sat in silence again. Finally Elias asked, "What's the test?" The god brightened slightly. "Ah." He reached into the air and pulled something invisible forward. A small wooden box appeared between them. "Inside this box," the god said, "is the answer to the question every mortal eventually asks." Elias frowned. That's vague. Yes. But the test is simple. The god pushed the box toward him. You may open it, or you may leave it closed. That's it. That is the test. Elias squinted at the box. What determines whether I pass? The god smiled faintly. That depends on why you choose what you choose. Elias stared at the box for a long time. Then he looked up. You said the test could be waived, if you genuinely wish to trade places. Elias nodded slowly. And if I fail the test? You die slightly sooner. Well, that's efficient. Another long silence followed. Finally Elias reached forward. He picked up the box. It was lighter than it looked. Tell me something, Elias said. Yes. How many people have taken the deal? The god thought about it. 3. 3. Elias said. Across all of human history. That seems low. Yes. And the test? Many more attempted it. Elias ran his thumb along the lid. Did any of them open it? Yes. Did any of them leave it closed? Yes. That's not helpful. No, the god admitted. Elias looked at him carefully. You hate this job. The god's laugh was dry as old paper. I have hated it since your species was inventing pottery. And you'd rather be mortal. Very much. Elias studied the box again. Then he set it gently back on the ground. I'll take the job, he said. The god froze. You're waiving the test. Yes. The old god's eyes widened for the first time. You don't even want to know the answer. Elias shook his head. I've spent my whole life chasing answers. Maps, routes, secrets. He leaned back. And I finally found the edge of the map. The wind in the valley grew quieter. I'd like to see what's on the other side. The god watched him for a long moment. Then slowly, very slowly, he smiled. Congratulations, he said. The sky folded inward like closing wings. Elias felt something vast settle onto his shoulders. Not weight exactly, responsibility. He suddenly understood the motion of tectonic plates. The timing of rainfall. The fragile probabilities keeping civilizations from collapsing overnight. It was endless. It was exhausting. It was beautiful. Across from him, the old god's form was shrinking. Becoming solid. Human. He stood up for the first time. His joints cracked loudly. Oh, the former god said, delighted. That feels strange. He stretched like someone waking from a very long nap. Then he looked at Elias, now something much larger than a man. Good luck, he said cheerfully. Elias watched him go. As the former god walked away, he picked up the small wooden box. He opened it. Inside was a mirror. The man looked at his reflection, grinned, and tossed the empty box into the grass. Behind him, the new god of the world sighed very quietly. Because after only a few seconds of eternity, Elias Harrow understood something the old god had known for ages. The test had never been about the box. It had been about curiosity. And explorers always fail it eventually. Thank you for listening to our little tale. Hopefully you found it entertaining. Until next time, as always, be well.